it sounds counterintuitive, but like it's so easy for actors, and I do it too. I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't relate to it. But we sometimes just forget the basics of human nature, where we're like, I can fall into the trap of like, I see a scene and there's a strong emotion in that scene, and I just go like, okay, this is where I get to like bawl my eyes out and have this like emotional catharsis, and be so distressed in the scene, and I'll like jump into it, and I'll have the emotion and whatever, and then I realize like, does my character actually want to be upset right now? And we can forget that like human beings want to have a good day. It's like, and we forget that characters are the same.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Julia Sarah Stone is an actor. She sat down with me in cyberspace to talk about the work. From speaking to so many actors, I think I got this idea that if you have enough time in terms of preparation, there's a ton of different answers about what you would do to begin to get into the process of building your character. But I want to ask this like this. If let's just say you got cast in something very exciting and it's starting tomorrow, which is not insane, because I've had people say that, like literally the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what do you need besides practical things like learning your lines, of course? What do you need boiled down to like the next 24 hours before you hit that set for you to feel like you at least have the bare minimum of what you need? Like, and
Right.
so I'm asking this in a way just to find out like the priorities actors have in terms of building a character, just as a way of getting to know you first off.
I need to understand what, I think I always go to story first. I need to understand what, first mapping out the story in terms of what actually happens, just on a very simple basic level. If I have such a short amount of time, which I have, I did a project recently that was, there was less than a week before, between like getting the offer for the film, reading the script for the first time, and then being on set, in a different province.
Oh God.
So that was definitely an experience. But yeah, so if I have that short of amount of time, definitely the first thing I do will be to read the script, however many times it takes to fully digest actually just the events of it. I'll map that out and help use that to help me kind of figure out my character's personal arc through the script. What kind of the sequence of, finding out new information and cause and effect, like how does my character make decisions to change their story, and then how are they affected by outside circumstances or other characters, things like that. And then I'll go into like a little bit of what happens, like kind of what things mean, what's going on underneath in terms of like what's the actual, like there's the events of the script, and then there's what's the story actually about. And kind of summing it up, not in terms of like a short summary of the story itself, but like this story is about, for example, love and heartbreak, or like how do you get over like the unimaginables of life, and stuff like that. And then I'll do that for the smaller portions of the character's arc, or chapters, if you want to call it. Like, I mean, for Come True, it was Anthony actually split the script up into a few different chapters, which was I'd never seen that in a script before, and I found that very helpful in terms of like I could actually see how he planned out Sarah's journey and the different kind of stages of it. He used Jungian archetypes or personas, and that was really useful too in terms of like it was a little bit of an indication of like direction of research,
Right.
and I like to find I guess the symbolic narrative of a script, if that makes sense. It helps me to kind of to find anchors to access the character in different points of the story, and it's different for every character, and that's kind of that's why it's a little bit difficult to answer the question like what is your process as an actor, because my process changes a lot depending on who the character is and what the story is about. Sometimes I use music more, sometimes I'll use images, or even activities. But yeah, I'll find those things that make it easier to access or to drop into the character very quickly. There's usually hints to that throughout the script, and I'll read the script over for those things once I've done the more of the story oriented reads.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find it harder if the character is closer to you? That's a weird way to say that, because
Yeah.
you would think it wouldn't be,
I
but
find it more fun when the character is more different from me.
Right,
I think a lot of actors feel that.
yes.
But I definitely, there are certain characters where it won't be that the character is similar to me, but it'll be that there's something about what they're going through, or even like certain ways that they react to things, or certain habits that they have, or even just people that they are relating to in the story, the different characters or relationships, things that speak to me in a way that that I know that experience, and I won't use I don't really use my own emotions or life experiences to access emotion, but I do take note of those things when I have a personal experience with something, or when I have the thought of like, oh, I know what that is. Like that's very easy for me to grasp or to understand or empathize with, because maybe I haven't had the exact experience that the character is going through, but I've reacted in that way to a certain situation, or somebody's spoken to me with that tone of voice before, or something like that. Little details that kind of, so I'll definitely take note of those, and those moments or those kind of observations, I guess, they can definitely help.
I heard you say somewhere that as a way in to playing Sarah in Come True, you found that her curiosity and her kind of driving force was like a playable thing.
Yeah.
That got me thinking, wow, okay. And actors say this a lot, like direction that's playable is always very helpful. But here was you just finding like an overall thing. And when I heard you say that, I went back and I was just picturing parts from the movie and thinking, I can see you kind of playing that curiosity like almost all the time. And it just made me think this is so interesting to have that as just an action that you can always go to, right? I mean, talk a little bit
Yeah.
about this if you can, and then talk about like, oh, but wait, what do you do when you don't have this kind of easily playable thing in the script?
Yeah, it was definitely something that drew me to Sarah right off the bat. That kind of she's so driven and active throughout the whole thing, throughout the whole script, that it it pulls you in as an audience or even as a reader. When I was reading the script for the first time, where I felt this kind of momentum even within the character, that I just didn't want to put the script down. I had to read through the whole thing because that character just kind of carries you through it,
Yeah.
with her drive. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the basic, it's one of the first things you learn about acting and human nature, where it's like you always have an intention because you
Yeah.
have a motivation.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an objective, and you're not playing a verb, or you're whatever the intention is in the scene, and it changes throughout the scene sometimes, most of the time. But if you don't have that, if you're not doing something, you're just kind of sitting in a feeling. And that's not, I mean, it can look good on screen sometimes. And it feels good as an actor. Like you feel like you're doing a lot when you're just like saying lines and feeling an emotion.
Yes.
And it can be, sometimes you can forget what you're actually trying to achieve in the scene, or what your character is trying to achieve, because you're so wrapped up in like, I gotta access this emotion. And it's I say that only because it's definitely a trap that I've fallen into in the past in classes and stuff. But playing a character with such a clear intention, and not even that the intention itself is always clear, but that she has that quality of always actively fighting for something,
Right. Right.
that it makes it very easy to remember that. And it came across very clearly even just in the script. So as an actor, it was a very clear like point of access for that character, because I was able to kind of put that energy even just into my body physiologically, and for Sarah, like physicality was a big, like, it was a tool that I used to kind of drop into her on set. But yeah, it's nice to have that where it's already in the script, and it's like I said, it's a quality of the character.
Yeah.
So rather than having to look for it,
Right. Right.
because sometimes it's a lot more subtle. Sometimes it looks like, or the way the script is written, sometimes it just looks like the character's feeling an emotion and saying lines. And so you have to kind of think about like, okay, well, what am I actually trying to achieve in the scene? What's my intention, so that I can have that, and then do it, like put the emotion on that.
Right. Right. And I'm sure sometimes you even have to make it up entirely. I mean, or make something
Yeah.
up that you can just work with.
Yeah. A lot of the times, like, people, we talk about like actors making choices and making strong choices. And a lot of the times that is a choice. Like, okay, what am I, if it's not clear in the script, I have to choose what it is that I want out of this scene. Or like, how would the character want this scene to end, if they got to write the script. And thinking about it that way before trying to like access the emotion, is, I find it it helps even to help the emotion to happen organically, or instinctually, without having to push for it. Because I find often if I find myself pushing for an emotion, it's an indication that I haven't really, I've forgotten what my intention is, and I've
that's
forgotten
interesting.
why it's important to me as a character. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm sure some people don't want to hear that because of how true it is.
Well, I mean, it sounds counterintuitive, but like it's so easy for actors, and I do it too. I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't relate to it. But we sometimes just forget the basics of human nature, where we're like, I mean,
Yeah.
I can fall into the trap of like I see a scene and there's a strong emotion in that scene, and I just go like, okay, this is where I get to like bawl my eyes out and have this like emotional catharsis, and be so distressed in the scene, and I'll like jump into it, and I'll have the emotion and whatever, and then I realize like, does my character actually want to be upset right now?
Right. Right.
And we can forget that like human beings want to have a good day.
Right.
It's like, and we forget that characters are the same.
I just saw Allure just in preparation for this interview. I don't know why I didn't know about this movie, and like you would figure that the two of you giving these this caliber performances, I would have known. And so usually I don't blame myself in these things. I blame others if I don't come across.
Yeah.
I mean, should I blame Canada? I mean, what is going on with like what is there a disconnect between what we get here? What
Yes,
can you talk
absolutely.
about that? So talk about that a little bit, and also segue into what it's like as a Canadian actor that I'm assuming would maybe like to, do some Hollywood work, and what is that? What are those roads like, and what are you dealing with at this point? Because we should have you, taking on Hollywood by now. Even though you're only 23, but I'm just talking about the caliber of work here.
It's difficult for any Canadian media to get seen in the US. Whether it's film or music. Music is a big one. I talk to everybody about Canadian music because what I hear on the radio is very different than what an American hears on the radio. And of course, we get so much American media, and we hear a lot of American music. But I mean, we have laws in Canada that a certain percentage of, like, for example, what plays on the radio must be Canadian.
Wow.
So there are bands and artists that I'm a huge fan of, that are very unknown simply because they're unknown outside of Canada. And that's a tragedy to me because we make some amazing stuff, not just film, but music, art, all of it. I don't know why it is. I think American media is so pervasive, and it's not a bad thing. It's the way that maybe it's a cultural difference. I don't know, but we get a mix, and it seems like there's more of a barrier in terms of Canadian media passing on to the States. I would like to I would like to see that barrier lifted a little bit, but I auditioned for a good amount of American productions, but I haven't worked on a lot of American stuff, which is I don't mind that. It would definitely be helpful in term career wise, but I really love. I mean, most of what I've worked on is Canadian indie films, and I love those. There's a very strong bond, I think, that forms when between the cast and crew of an indie film, because nobody on set is there for the money. Everybody, there's a sense of connection because of a shared passion for A, the work, and B, for the film and the story. And I think that's a very it's a special feeling, and it's fulfilling.
I think whenever I think about making another film, I always have this worry in my mind about the type of actor who is wonderful, but wants it to just be over. Like wants it to be good. Is it good? Okay, let's stop. And not wanting to explore and have fun in the exploration and in the work. And
Right.
and I think you are that type of actor that wants to explore it. And in fact, I've heard you say that not only are you involved in an acting class right now, you can't see yourself ever not being in an acting class.
Right. Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm taking a short break from class right now just because auditions are very busy at the moment. I'm overwhelmed just with auditions, which is amazing. It's my favorite type of stress. But
I guess what I'm trying to say is the point is that you're constantly treating this like a learning experience, which all of the best actors that I've talked to treat this as. They are constant students. And
yeah.
I mean, what do you have to say to the person who's listening that doesn't understand that thinks of acting class as a means to an end? Once you start working, once you are being inundated with auditions, it just seems silly to constantly being into learning in that way.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really see it as like that person is less of an actor. I really don't have any kind of I don't see anyone as like, better or worse in terms of if you take class or not. However an actor likes to work, that's the way they like to work. I would question why they like, what is it about being an actor that you like? Because to me, and especially when actors are talking to me about, they want to get into the industry and they are interested in being an actor, but how do I book something without taking classes? And I'm like, well, do you really like acting, or do you like the idea of being an actor or being successful or being in movies? Do you want to, like, it's kind of the thing about it's the process, not the destination, which is such a cliche, but it's like, to me, I take classes not just because I want to be constantly improving, and because I'm always, there's always something that I'm curious about exploring in terms of acting and human nature and the different aspects of the toolbox. There's so many things to explore, but I also I take classes because I love acting, like acting itself, and when I'm not on set, I like to be playing with it, and you look at athletes, like they have their games, and they're I don't know anything about sports, and that's about to be very obvious, but like I do know that, like, between the events and the games and whatever athletes do, they're practicing and they're training and
Yes.
not just so that they can be the best, or so that they can compete, but because they kind of I guess crave it when they're not doing
Yes.
it.
Yes.
And
yes,
I
yes.
feel that way as well.
The year you were born, I was your age right now. So I'm exactly twice your age. and just last year, I saw this video of when I was 23. I found this video and I was talking to the camera with my roommate, and we were being really serious, and we were talking about how we wasted our life. and it wasn't joking. It was
Yeah.
like it was, and I can't express to you how mad this made me as a 45. I guess it was 45 when I saw him.
Right.
But I remember I remember that feeling of how
Mm.
I'd wasted my youth. I mean, to think about how infinitely more successful you are right now than I was at your age is mind-boggling. But
Mm.
but that doesn't mean that you're not having thoughts like this. And I think
Right.
everybody has thoughts like this of where you're supposed to be or where you want to be, how things are not happening, and then to go through this past year for
Yeah.
someone like you on the
Yeah.
cusp of so many things, and then everything's stalling like this. So the question is just, how do you process these thoughts and
Mhm.
these feelings? Because I'm asking you because we heard it from you. You're really smart about the work. You're really
Mhm.
smart about your approach to this as a wanting to grow. And so
Mhm.
I'm really curious for you to just talk about processing these other aspects that have to play in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a big question. I It's been a hard year, to say the least. Yeah, I think especially coming off of the couple of years before it, I I was feeling this momentum, and I was almost to the point of like I'm kicking myself for it now, but I was almost at the point of thinking like I would love just like a short break. Because I was traveling for months at a time, being home for weeks at a time, and I loved it. I was feeling very fulfilled being on set, and absolutely like the traveling even and meeting people, and I I was I was having a lot of fun. I just like I was feeling like it would be nice to just like be at home for a little bit. Um, and then COVID happened, and I was like, not exactly what I meant, but here we are.
Ah,
Yeah, I it's made me very hungry to be back on set, and I
yes.
with the industry opening up now, and having auditions and callbacks, and I've had a couple of close calls recently, but I'm excited, and I'm feeling ready. I like so more than ready to be working again, and to have that kind of creative and collaborative energy again, because I miss more than anything. Like I've taken some classes on Zoom throughout COVID, but it's not the same at all. I miss looking into a human being's eyes and doing a scene and playing off of each other, and like that back and forth energy and the instincts that come up, that you don't really get when you're acting virtually with somebody. Um, I miss that,
Yes.
and yeah, it's been difficult, and especially with having had some momentum, and then feeling like, well, okay, now what do I do with this? Because, and I've had some films go to festivals during COVID, that I would have done like a big festival circuit, if it weren't for the lockdown. But
Mm.
yeah, it's been very strange. It's been very strange. Um, but I'm kind of trusting, I guess. It sounds like woo woo, but I'm kind of trusting the how things are playing out, and that this is leading to something. Um, I think, I mean, the just even just the buzz around Come True has been really exciting, and uh,
Yes.
satisfying. Like after everything, after like how long this film took to put together, because it was so Anthony had such a specific vision and put so much thought and attention into not cutting corners and making it the passion project that he envisioned it to be. And it shows, and
Yes.
it's, I think, I mean, we could sense that it was going to be really good. But actually seeing the reception of it and the buzz around it right now is very, it's very exciting. It's nice to be experiencing that again and having some kind of something that feels like it's gaining momentum again, and that there's something that it could be leading to great things. So yeah, I feel like things are on the upswing for sure, and the industry, especially here in Vancouver, seems to be very much ramping up again. So that's a huge relief. Yeah.
This is all good news, and I wish you all the best with this film and
Thank you.
all of your future endeavors. Julia Sarah Stone, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, this is great.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.